Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Nasa's Thread. Today on the channel, I'll be showing you how to make this drawstring button down Bubu shirt. If it's something you're interested in, keep watching. And if you're yet to subscribe to the channel, please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and let's get right into this. For this, I have 3 yards of fabric here, but I ended up using about 2 yards. I also have my buttons I'll be needing, so those are the important things you need. The first thing I did was to fold my fabric into two using 20 inches on fold, that is 40. And then the length I have here is a total of 30 inches. 2 inches will be for my hemming allowance at the base, and then my main length will be 28 inches. So if you want it to be longer, you can as well make your length to be longer, okay? And if you want it to be bigger, you can as well fold bigger, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is to mark a neck width of 3 inches. Then I'm going to mark a neck depth of 1.5 inches. So this is the back. We're cutting at the back firstly, and I just went ahead to curve this out to give me a C neckline right there. Then the next we're going to do is to come down from the edge of this end by 1.5 inches for our shoulder slant, and then we're going to connect this to meet the neckline. So also note that whatever fold you have determines the length of your sleeve, since the sleeve we're working with is a cut together sleeve. So have that at the back of your mind while you're folding, that you'll be needing more since your sleeve is cut together with your top. So we have that down, as you can see. So the next thing we're going to do is to measure the opening of our sleeve. So for this, you can as well do what you want, but ensure that it's open enough for your arm to pass through. So I just went ahead to measure 10 inches at that point for that, and I'm going to just rule a straight line at that end. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is on that line which we've drawn, we're going to take quarter of the round bust measurement. Okay, so you're going to take quarter of your round bust measurement on that line. Go ahead and mark it down. Now I'm adding 5 inches extra for what I want. You can totally add more. Like I said, if you want yours to be bigger, you can go ahead to add more. All right, so I just marked that, and then I took what I had left at the edge and then marked it to the full length of this. So whatever measurement you have from the bust area, replicated to the full length, since it is a free kind of top, it is not fitted. So I just connected that in a straight line. Okay, so this is actually a simple thing to do, like a simple top. Okay, now for the sleeve area, we're going to go ahead and just make a simple curve around that area so that we have the ease of stitching it down, and also it's not folding at that end. Okay, so note that at this point, instead of marking where I'm marking, you can see I'm marking on the inside. I went up by 1 inch on that inside. I would advise you mark on the outside of it. Okay, so mark outside of the line 1 inch outward, and then connect it back to the main line you have there to give you that nice curve at that end, so that you can not so that you avoid having any rumples or squeezed area at that point. So I just went ahead to cut it out. Like I said earlier, we're working on the back part of this firstly before we work on our front. Okay, so this is the back. Now for the front, I've gone ahead to cut out my piece for the front. So you can see it's actually 2 pieces of this, and from the starting of this, I'm marking 2 inches from that point. Now that's because the front has like a button, so what I'm marking is simply my button allowance, right? So I'm going to mark that to the end. Now for your cut of the front, ensure you add extra inches. You can also use add 24 inches extra to what you had at the back. Like we use 20 for the width in front, you can use 24 for the back. That's what I mean. I'm not saying adding 24 to 20. Okay, so I just mark that down for my button allowance, and I just rule a straight line to connect those points together. So You can see that is the line we have there, like so. So the next thing we do is to bring in our back piece and then place it after that line. Okay, so apart from the button allowance and the neckline of the front, the other things for the other sides, we're going to have the same length, same shoulder drop for the front also. So the back and the front, the difference we're going to have is the button allowance and then the neckline, right? So after doing that, after placing that, ensuring that is well placed, you want to go in with your scissors to trim off the sides, right, so that they are matching perfectly. So I'll just go ahead with my scissors to just trim it off. Okay, so this is what we have, right? So we finished working with the back. You can go ahead and take it off, but remember, before doing that, we're going to note the neck width we have at the back, because the neck width of the front and that of the back needs to match, needs to align perfectly. So I just went ahead to mark that 3 inches, to measure it again to ensure that I'm on the right track. Now for the width, sorry, the depth of my neckline for the front, I'm going down by 7 inches. Now you can decide to use 8 inches depending on how deep you want it to be. Now note that if you don't want your breast to be showing, you need to stop this around your chest area so that your breast isn't showing. Okay, so you can use up to 8 inches for that if your bust point is 9 is I'm sorry is 10 inches or above. So I just connected that to a V, you can see, and I'm cutting it out like so. So this is what we have for the front. So when placed together, we're going to have the both of them looking this way. You can see the neckline for the front is a V. You can also use a round neck if you want to do that. Just know what works best for you. Okay. So I'm going to place them back together, position them properly. I want to make a notch on my button allowance point. I'm going to notch this at the top, and I will also notch this at the base. Okay, so it's important to just make notches at those points. So we're going to fold this up to create our button placket, but before then we're going to cut out a facing for the neckline. So we're going to be turning a neckline with a facing that same fabric we have on like this, after which we'll go ahead and fold our button allowance. Now the reason for putting the facing first, so that by the time you fold in your button allowance, everything aligns properly. So I'll just go ahead and use this piece of fabric I have. I'm going to fold this up since we have two parts for the front, and then I will place what I have here on top of it like so, ensuring is aligning. So you need to ensure that the edges, the ends of your neckline, that's the front part, is aligning to your folds perfectly. You can work with your pin to ensure that it stays in place. Okay, so I just placed that and I went on to pin it down to keep it in place. So I have this way. I'll just go ahead and trace out what I have around the neckline. Okay, then I'm just going to add a little bit to the top area of this. Now for the bottom, you want to use at least 2 inches for the length of this. So I just used 2 inches at that point. So I'm going to cut from that point to meet the end I have at the top. So I used my rule to get it because I wanted like a kind of curve at that end. I didn't want it to be all straight. I just used my curved rule to just make a curve to meet the ends I have at the top, after which I will go ahead and cut it out. All right, so this is what we have, this is what it looks like. I'm just going to open this up to make it two. So we're going to use this to turn this, that's the neckline. So you're going to turn it, placing it right side to right side. Firstly, go ahead and turn it. So ensure you fold in the edges of this so that it's not looking rough, and then after which you can go ahead and fold in your button placket allowance. 1 inch, you can fold half of an inch first and fold 1.5 inches later. Now for the back piece, I will also cut my facing for this, so we want to have like a neat work by the time we finish. So I'll go ahead and just do the same thing I did to the front. Go ahead and trace out another piece for the facing for the back. Remember, the length of your facing should be 2 inches long. Okay, so the edges of my facing will also be curved for that of the back, so you can see what I have. I'm going to use this to go ahead and turn the neckline of the back piece. All right, so I've done that. I've gone ahead to turn it off. This is the back. This is what it looks like in back. At the back, I used my hemming gum to just keep it in place. You can also stitch on that to keep it in place. Okay, then for the front piece, I've gone ahead to also fold in my neckline, okay, to turn my neckline with the facing, and then I also folded in my button allowance like I said. So I did it for both piece of my front. Remember, the front part of it, we have two of it. I did it for both of them for the front two parts of my front piece. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to join the shoulders of this top right now. So I'm going to bring in my back piece. I will place it on top of it like so. Align the shoulders area. Go ahead and stitch it down by half of an inch on both ends. So you stitch on the right side and you also stitch on the left side. Ensure that they are aligning properly, and then I'll go ahead and hem the ends of the sleeve. So I've done that. Okay, I've joined the shoulders. I've hemmed the ends of my sleeve, so you can see how they are lining properly like so. So we want to work on the sides. We're going to be stitching the sides of our top right now. So the stitching allowance we're using for this is 1 inch. Now, since we have about 5 inches we added for this, so we have 4 inches extra for ease. So 1 inch is enough to stitch this down. So I just used 1 inch. I'm measuring this around what I have there. Measure it, ensure that it follows the curve I have around my armhole, especially so that I don't have any I don't have my fabric dragging at that end by the time I finish stitching it down. So remember, we're using 1 inch of stitching allowance to do this. So even if you added more allowances, remember I added 5 inches. If you used more than 5, you also need to just stitch this down by 1 inch. Okay, 1 inch is enough to have a perfect stitch. So I just traced my 1 inch to the full length of what I have here. Okay, ensuring that it is in a straight line, and then I'll go ahead and stitch it down. So I'll do the same thing to the other sides of this and go ahead and do the same thing. So I've stitched it. This is what it looks like after stitching it together. So the next one to do is to determine where we want our drawstring to start from. So the markings are made on the wrong side of the fabric. Now you're going to take your measurement from after the shoulder joining stitch you have around the shoulder area, and then measure where you want it to end. So I'm going to just like make an opening at that point. You can also just stitch this down without making an opening. I'll make an opening at that end, right? So I'm just going to stitch open it up to the close to my stitched line, so you ensure it doesn't get into your stitch line, so that this doesn't, you don't go back to work on this. You repeat the same process on the other ends, or you just come down by 2 inches from the armhole area, or wherever you want your drawstring to start from. You just measure that. Okay, so your drawstring should start from after the armhole, so 2 inches or more below the armhole area, and then I'll just make that opening also at that end. Okay, just like I did for the other side. So after doing that, we're going to open this up, go over to the machine, and we're going to be stitching this down. We're going to fold in the edges of this and then stitch it down. So before doing this, you want to iron this open. You want to go over to your ironing table, iron this, your seam open before you do this. Why? Because it's going to be easier for you to stitch on top of it properly. So ensure your fabric is not folded while you're stitching. It's going to make this to come out looking nice and clean. So I'll go ahead and do that for the ends that I have. So after that, I went ahead to cut out piece for my drawstring. So I had about 30 something inches at the length here, which I went on to reduce later on. So the width I have is 1.5 inches. Okay, so I'll go over to my machine. I'm going to be folding this up this way. I'll fold half inch first, fold another half inch, and then fold it on top of itself, and then match it down to the full length. So for the top, this is what it looks like after I finish stitching it down. Okay, this is how nice we have this looking already. I've gone ahead to stitch it down on both ends. So for our rope, the rope for the drawstring, you'll be needing 4 of this. So this is what I have after I finish. Okay, so this is what it looks like. This is 4 of them. Okay, now the length I have here now is about 24 inches. Now that's because you don't need this to be too long, because this just comes from around the underbust area. Okay, so you don't need this to be too long. I hope you understand that. Okay, so I will be passing this through my the casing I've made for my rope using my safety pin. So I'm just going to use one of this and show you what we'll be doing. So you're going to just pick one piece of this, fix your safety pin through it, and then pass it through what you have at that point. So just pass it through the space. Remember, you'll be needing 4 of this. Now you can alternate the length of your top for it to be longer, or you can make it shorter. But I think the shortest length you should have should be around your hip area, maybe 1-2 inches after your hip area, so that it covers that point. Since this is like a bubu, like a free top, you should have the shortest length around that area. Okay, but you can have this very long if you wish to. It totally depends on your preference. So I'm going to pass this through the 4 points, and then I will use my pins to hold it at the top area of this. Okay, so I just did pass the other 2 for the other ends, and I'm passing the one for this other side, and I'll just go on to pin it down to keep it in place. So after doing that, after passing all 4 of them, I'll go ahead and just run a stitch at that point to keep them in place so that it doesn't move. All right, so this is what we have after I finish. So you can see, you can easily draw this up to have that drawstring effect on both sides. You can see how fine this turned out to be. So the last thing for this top is to go ahead and make buttonholes. I'll be taking this to the market to fix my buttonholes. Now, since this is for me, a lady, my buttonhole is going to sit on the right side, while my buttons will sit on the left. So if you're making for a guy, it should be the other way around. So the buttons are going to sit on the left, and then the buttonholes on the right. So you just go ahead and take the measurements from where you want your buttons to sit, and take it to the market. So this is what it looks like after I finished. You can see how nice this looks. Okay, I think the fabric, the design, everything just brings out the beauty in this style. And I went ahead to just make a simple shot for this to match along with what I'm wearing. You can see how excited I look wearing this. So let me know in the comment section if you found this video helpful. Please subscribe if you're yet to subscribe. Thank you for watching. Bye.